Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Tech Talk, all about the FastTrack Recognized Solution Architect program. My name is Rachel Profitt, and I will be moderating our session today. Presenting for us today, I have Kellie Pieber. Kellie, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rachel, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today's call. I'm super excited to be here with you and presenting over the next probably 30 to 45 minutes. As Rachel mentioned, my name is Kellie Pieber, and I'm a Principal Program Manager on the Partner Success team here at Microsoft. What that means, I run a number of different programs for our partners, focused on building competency and recognizing the amazing work that our partner ecosystem does. Today, one of those programs that I am excited to talk to you about is called the FastTrack Recognized Solution Architect, or FTRSA program. We'll have a fun game as we go throughout this. If you could count how many times I say FTRSA, you could get a prize at the end. So with that, I wanted to just provide a quick overview of what the FTRSA program is for those who don't know. So this is an annual recognition program that really recognizes solution architects at our partner organization for their deep knowledge and expertise and great work that they do in customer implementations at our customers. This program has been around since 2019, and it covers both Power Platform and Dynamics 365, which I'll go into in just a little bit. But from a high level, this is really threefold in terms of what this program does. One, it recognizes individuals, again, at the partner organization. Two, we really hope that it motivates partners to invest in improving the capacity and capability of their architects at their partner organizations. And then last, it really empowers our customers, and it helps them to be able to identify and choose from a pool of proven solution architects at partner organizations. So really a strong program that, again, has been around for a number of years, and one that we continue to look to expand, improve, hear feedback on, and take that into consideration. So this is really the motivation of my call and topic today. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of the current landscape and the number of FTRSAs, or FastTrack Recognized Solution Architects, that we have in FY24. We have 132 FTRSAs total, that's individuals, from about 68 partner organizations. If you want to see the breakdown of that, you could see some of the amazing logos of the partner organizations which have FTRSAs within their org. For Dynamics, there's two categories in which you could get this recognition: CE and F&O. So for CE, we have to date 37 architects, and for F&O, we have 32. If I look at the Power Platform side on the right hand of the screen, there's a total of 63 Power Platform FTRSAs worldwide today. And there's two categories in which you could get this recognition. One is for Power Apps, where we have 53 architects. And then the other is for Power Automate, where we have about 10 architects. You might be wondering why that number for Power Automate is slightly less. We did just introduce that category, I believe, last year, so it's a little bit of a newer one. You may be wondering, what is some of the benefits that if I am a partner going for this recognition that I will get? So I'm going to go through each of these, but I do want to just note these are always subject to change year over year. Again, we try our best to take the feedback from the current FTRSAs as well as others in terms of what will be the most beneficial benefits that we could give. But to date, for our current FTRSAs, they are featured on our product websites. You could see two visuals of that on the screen, and we could send these links to you as well. where you'll see there's a product website listing of all of the architects that have the recognition for Dynamics 365. And then there's also a website listing for all of the architects who hold the recognition for Power Platform. This is super important in terms of helping our field members identify who these FTRSAs are at partner organizations, and then also helping our customers identify which partner organizations have these FTRSAs and how to contact and learn more about them. The other thing, which folks really love, the current FTRSAs get a signed letter of appreciation from our Corporate Vice President of Business Industry Copilot, Vic, Charles Lamanna. You also receive an amazing gift package, which will have plaques, mementos, and other gifts. And then the last two, I think, are extremely important in terms of kind of recognition and exposing what I'll say is your brand or your recognition to customers and the Microsoft field. You'll also get a Credly badge that you could use on your LinkedIn profiles, again, signaling that you have this recognition and have really met these rigorous requirements to get this recognition. And then the last one, which is widely popular, we also host Ask Me Anything or AMA sessions with our respective product GMs and leadership teams. So these happen again on a quarterly basis, and all of our participating FTRSAs are able to join these meetings and ask very technical or programmatic questions to our engineering leadership and product teams. So this has been a great source of getting information out early to our FTRSAs and answering their key questions. So the meat of this presentation, you're probably wondering, if you're not already familiar with this program, if I am interested in actually nominating and going for this recognition, what is the process to actually do so? So I'm going to talk about how many is this? 3, 4, 5 boxes that are shown on the slide today. And then I'll also come back and talk about what's listed in a purple color, which is also some of the net new changes that we made to the process. But before I get into what's net new, I'll just talk about the process at a high level. So the first is we always open up every year the process with the nomination period. When I mean the nomination period, this usually happens in September or October, where we publicly create a nomination site that details all of the requirements that need to be met in order to be considered for this recognition. And we'll go through those requirements in just a minute. The nomination period usually is open for about 3 months. And that gives folks time to actually go in and meet the requirements, submit their nominations. As those are received, we internally at Microsoft will do what we call the candidate vetting. So we're going to make sure that all of the submissions have adhered to the requirements and that you submitted the appropriate artifacts needed aligned to those requirements. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute and talk about what's new in this stage in just a second. After we've done the vetting and have a pool of candidates who are meeting the requirements, we then will go ahead and schedule interviews. So for Power Platform, the FTRSA's nominees will meet with our Power CAT or Customer Advisory team. And for Dynamics 365, they will meet with our internal Dynamics FastTrack team who will conduct interviews. After the interviews are conducted, there will be a decision made whether or not the nominees will be given the recognition. And if they are, then we'll go ahead and do the onboarding process where we onboard you into the program, and then we start the realization of all of the benefits that I mentioned on the other slide. So that's the high-level process that we run every year. So now let's just talk a little bit about what is new. So 2 things that we did for this cycle for our FY25 FTRSAs is 1, we did update the eligibility requirements to focus more on business contributions. You'll see what that means in just a minute when we go through the eligibility requirements. The second thing that we did, typically when we open up the nominations, they're open for a 3-month period. Because we did change the eligibility requirements, we wanted to extend that nomination timeframe to 4 months to really allow net new candidates and those who are renewing adequate time to actually get their requirements and aligned artifacts in. The second thing that we did is we're introducing a somewhat new category that we call the quality assessment category. So essentially, as you are submitting all of your artifacts, whether it's reference architectures, technical diagrams and artifacts, et cetera, aligned to the requirements, we have a pool of technical SMEs on both teams. We're going to review those artifacts and really assess it not only on the quantity of artifacts that you're submitting, but what is the quality. An example of this, if you're submitting a reference architecture, does this adhere to best practices, et cetera? How complex is this? So the pool of technical internal SMEs will really be assessing the quality of those artifacts that are submitted. And that will help also in the actual interviews, which are conducted as well, to be able to go in further and expand upon what has been submitted. So just wanted to call out those net new items. This is where I wanted just to spend a few moments talking about what are the eligibility criteria for Dynamics 365. Please keep in mind there's also separate criteria for Power Platform if you're interested in going in for that recognition as well. But for today's purposes, I'm just going to cover the requirements for Dynamics 365. There's a link to the nomination form that we'll send to you, and you can see the requirements for both categories if interested. But at a high level, and I'm going to talk about the first or the upper box first, which we call the prereqs. So if you are interested in going for this recognition, you must submit proof of all 3 prereqs shown below. So what does that mean? That means you have to hold an active certification as a Microsoft certified Dynamics 365 solution architect expert. The second is you need to provide a recent customer endorsement for projects launched in the last 12 months. We have a template and a process that you could use to request that customer endorsement. The important thing with this statement is this is an or statement. So you could either submit that customer endorsement for projects launched in the last 12 months, or you could just provide us proof of an active engagement in an implementation that you're currently part of, or another or statement, show proof to us that you're an active member of an established portfolio partner's COE or Center of Excellence. And then the last one that is part of these prereqs is you must submit a reference architecture article that has been used as a customer organization. I want to clarify here because I think there's been some confusion. When we say submit a reference architecture, this is not mandatory that you are actually publishing it. This is just for our internal review and for that quality assessment and interview phase that we talked about. So this could be anonymized. This could be something that does talk about who the customer is. We are not publishing this. We would never do that without your permission. This is truly just for the quality assessment and interview component. So again, all 3 of these prerequisites in this top box must be submitted. The second part is where we encourage you to submit proof of 1 or more of the activities shown in the below box. So again, I just want to call out, this is 1 or more. You only have to do 1 from this category. You don't have to do all of them. So you could onboard customer implementation projects in the Dynamics 365 implementation portal. You could provide proof of 1 or more customer or partner stories that has been published in the Microsoft Customer Stories or Partner Stories site. Or another or statement, you could show us proof that you are currently submitting 1 for review and qualification. You can contribute product feedback to ideas, advisory boards, focus groups, etc. You could show us proof of any published technical samples from the past year. You could also show us proof of escalation reduction in a customer implementation. And then this last one is where, if you wanted to, you could submit proof of additional reference architecture articles that have been submitted at the site listed here, which will be for review and potential publication. So just want to clarify and call out one last time, top box, all three prereqs must be met. The below box, just one of those activities or more if you choose to do so. So hopefully that makes sense, and I promise, pause and take many questions. But let me just go through 2 more slides and then we'll get to questions. So after me going through all of that, if you are interested in either applying for this program or renewing your current FTRSA status, there is a link at the bottom, and we'll again put that, into the chat window. The original deadline to get your nominations in was February 3rd. We have heard from many of you that you could use some additional time. So good news today, we are extending the nomination deadline to March 3rd. So hopefully that provides more than adequate time to get those requirements that I just showed on the previous slide into us. Again, if there's ever any questions, you can reach out to me, kelliep@microsoft.com. We also have a FastTrack general alias, which I'll put in the chat window, so you could also leverage that for any questions as you go through this. So just to quickly exhaust or summarize this slide again, if you're interested in going for this recognition, if you know of any individuals within your partner organization who are interested, please send them this nomination link. Make sure they get their nominations in by the new extended deadline, which is March 3rd. So a few tips when you are going through the nomination form. The first is you have to, of course, meet all the mandatory requirements. So before you actually apply or nominate, make sure you're reviewing all of the eligibility requirements. Make sure you can meet those. And then, of course, please apply or nominate. The second is provide clear documentation. We have an instruction guide, which there's a link to on this slide, that I highly encourage, and this covers the next point, you to please review before submitting your nomination. This will provide you things like templates for the reference architecture articles, the customer endorsements, where to submit information, how to upload your relevant artifacts. So please, please, please read that instruction guide first prior to going and doing the nomination. That'll save you and us a lot of time. And then the last one, submit early. I know we just extended the deadline, but there are a few steps involved with this process, so you don't want to be waiting until the last minute to get your submissions in. So I highly encourage everyone to go ahead and start that process today if interested. And just to summarize, a few things just to note or things that have changed. As I mentioned, we have extended the deadline for the nomination. It was previously February 3rd. We have given a whole additional month. So you now have until March 3rd. But as just mentioned on the last slide, please don't wait until the last minute. Get that started as soon as possible. Our application reviews, as the applications are coming in, or the nominations, which they are flowing in today already, we will start the review likely in the February timeframe. If there's any missing artifacts or requirements, we will reach out to you just to make sure you're aware of that and have the opportunity to get that in before the deadline. As I mentioned before, and this is a big one I want to call out, publishing is optional. So all nominees must submit a reference architecture as part of the mandatory requirements. However, the applicants are able to choose to publish it publicly or not. I know there's a process involved with that, needing customer approvals, etc. So please just note, for those prereqs that we showed, the reference architecture is primarily used for the internal kind of review. If you do choose to do the additional business contribution requirement where you actually publish it, which I encourage you to do, it's a great opportunity. There's a process for that, but we would never publish any of your submitted reference architectures without your permission, customer permission, and going through the official process. And then lastly, launch final decisions and onboarding of those who are going to be rewarded. This recognition will occur likely in the May to June timeframe. So that is it from my perspective. I know I went through this relatively fast. I hope it was helpful. I hope you are eager to join and go for this prestigious, recognition. And I hope you also know that if there are any questions, we at Microsoft are here to help you through this process. So please reach out. So with that, I would love to pause and maybe Rachel and team, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
Yep, absolutely. Some of them I've been answering in the chat, but we'll review those verbally because they're great questions. So the first question was, is it possible to be an FTRSA as an independent consultant?
As an independent consultant, great question. I would say it is absolutely if you are able to fulfill those requirements that we showed on the previous slide. So the answer is yes, with the caveat as, of course, as long as you're able to fill the actual requirements.
Great. The next question is, during vetting, if Microsoft has any questions, do they contact the candidate for additional information or clarity?
Great question. We absolutely will. And this is where I really encourage folks to not wait until the March 3rd deadline. Get those nominations in. And what happens is as you submit, there's a team internally who will just be making sure two things occur. One, that you have met the minimum requirements that have been set forth. And two, that you're leveraging the guidance that we provide in the instruction guide to really kind of properly label and submit the artifacts aligned to the requirements. If we have questions or something seems completely off, we will definitely be reaching out to you to course correct to make sure you get all of that in time. Great question.
Somebody asked, can the nomination and eligibility requirements be shared? Can you go back to the slide that has those AKA links? And I can also type them into the chat so people can click those links.
You got it. So I think there's two things. So if you go to this AKA that's listed here, FTRSA nomination, you'll see all of the eligibility requirements for both Power Platform and Dynamics 365. And then there's also this instruction guide, which again, I really encourage folks to please review this prior to even starting your nomination. It will save you quite a bit of time.
Great. The next question is, by the best implementation partner policies, sharing technical or business process document belonging to client is the biggest challenge. Does FTRSA team look at what could be a workaround?
And I believe you're talking about this one, published technical samples from the past year, if I'm hearing that.
I think the way I understand this question, Kellie, is, right, so at the top, right, the submit a reference architecture article that has been used at a customer organization is probably what they're asking about. So this particular article does not get published, right? So you are sharing this under NDA with us for us to evaluate your technical knowledge and know-how. The optional ones that are down below, right, are we're asking you to do one or more of these things, and any reference architecture or business process that you are submitting needs to follow our template. It should not have customer information in it. I would encourage you that if you implemented a reference architect, so if you implemented a solution at a customer, if you are a solution architect, you should have done many different architecture diagrams that were probably for a customer. You might even be reusing them at multiple customers. What we would ask is that you remove the customer information and share a genericized version of that architecture. And a reference architecture is simply two or more solutions being combined together, demonstrating kind of how those applications work together. That could be a single Dynamics 365 product with another Dynamics 365 product using dual write or virtual entities. For example, it could be a Dynamics 365 product with the Power Platform, so like a Power App or Power Automate Flow, or it could be an integration that you built, and demonstrating kind of how you connected the data and those two systems, what problem you were solving with that particular architecture. So like that's kind of a high level, like what is a reference architecture?
Yeah.
The business process articles are like, we're looking for how out of the box functionality works in like how a business process works. We have AI generated business process flows for more than 500 business processes now. So you could certainly pick up one of those and document how that business process works. What are the benefits? What are the key stakeholders? What configurations would be required in Dynamics to support that business process, and so on, and submit that on our template to be published. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, feel free to comment back again in the Q&A, and we will try to address that question further.
I could not have said it better, though, Rachel. Thank you for answering that. That was fantastic. And as Rachel said, if that doesn't answer, please let us know, and we're happy to elaborate.
The next question is a question about the certification. On the nomination form, only MB 700 is mentioned for F&O. You're referring to the architect expert, which would require MB 700 plus 3 more certifications. What certifications are really needed for the nomination?
And I don't have an answer right now. I could come back to this one, but it is and it's linked here. And let me try to, whatever this certification is, the Dynamics 365 Solution Architect Expert. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head what the exams are.
It is exactly right. Like, so in order to hold MB 700, you do have to have 3 additional exams. So it's the combination of, and there's a list of, we don't tell you which 3 because you can have any of a large list of them. But the link there, I don't know, Kelly, if you're able to paste that into the Q&A or into the chat, and I can put that in there so people can go click on it. But yes, you do have to have that MB 700, which is 3 of, like, so it could be a finance, an SCM, and a commerce. Like there's a whole bunch of exams that make you eligible for the architect expert. The next question was, what qualifies as proof of active engagement in an implementation? The one that I posted in what I think is the easiest way is proof of a project in our Dynamics 365 implementation portal and like screenshotting your membership in that project. But what else would be accepted for that, Kelly?
That's right. If you could provide just exactly what Rachel said. We just want to understand what is your role in this customer implementation, etc. So any proof that you could provide during the actual nomination period is great. And then I would say be prepared, because it will likely come up in your interview to further expand about that and talk about your role, what best practices have been leveraged, etc. So any information, I would say the more the better. But it also is something that will likely be expanded upon within the actual interview itself as well. And Rachel, real quick, can you see the nomination form?
Yeah, on the screen right now, yes.
Yeah. So real quick, I did, and this may have been a typo on the slide that I was sharing. The actual nomination form for Dynamics 365 says you should hold the PL 600 or the MB 700. So just want to call that out.
I believe the PL 600 is like the architect for the Power Platform exam.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to call that out, and we'll update this slide to reflect that. Apologies all for not having that on there.
The next question is, how do I know that my nomination is under review or even opened? Will I receive some questions about my submitted information, or will it be like response for nomination, yes, no for future steps, etc.?
Great question as well. So there's 2 things that will happen once you submit your nomination. There is an automated response that will let you know, thank you for submitting. This is now under review. And then we will be back in touch with you if there's any information missing and if we have questions. And also if you are selected to move forward to the next phase. So all of that is in the automated response. And then the other thing that I will say, when you're doing the actual nomination form itself, there is a option that says, do you meet all of the minimum requirements? If you select no, it ends the process for you there. So those two kind of mechanisms are in place. Again, if you do submit something, if you're not hearing from us, then I would say you likely have followed all the instructions, are in good shape, and then we are in the process of just reviewing it internally, and we'll be in touch with you per our timeline to get you to the next phase. But we're always doing, as the nominations come through, just the quality check to make sure that you have submitted all of the artifacts and requirements aligned to the instruction guide, that you are meeting the minimum requirements. If you are not, we will reach out to you.
So the next question is, what happens if an individual changed partner and all his architecture work was with a previous company? Question's not 100% clear to me, Kellie. I don't know. I'm wondering if they're worried about like how their name shows up on our website, like publicly, if you change partner companies, or if the concern is with like, you submitted this and then you changed companies. The submission that is in the mandatory requirements is under NDA, right? We don't share that. If you do the optional ones down below, then we would credit that to you and or your company that you work for at the time that you published it.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing too, if it was about the former. We've had instances in the past where an FTRSA has gotten this recognition while they were with partner organization X. They then moved to partner organization Y. You would still hold the recognition. Once you get this recognition, it is for 1 year, regardless of the partner organization if you've moved. So we would update the website, et cetera, accordingly to reflect your new partner organization as well. And again, just to kind of call out, once you do get this recognition, you hold it for a 1 year period. So hopefully between Rachel and I's comments that helped address it. But if not, please put any additional questions in the chat and we'll answer after.
Yeah. The next one is solution blueprint acceptable? I'm assuming that this is in regards to a reference architecture or perhaps evidence of an active customer engagement. I think, right, that theoretically, I would say yes, would work for either one of those.
Correct. I agree.
So the next question is that focused only on F&O and Power Platform implementations, or can there be recognized architects implementing solutions based on Business Central and Power Apps, which is not supported by the Dynamics 365 implementation portal?
Yeah, so I'll say Business Central, no. For Power Apps, or Power Platform in general, if you're interested in going for that recognition, there are two categories in which you could get that, and that is Power Apps at FTRSA recognition, and then we also have a category for Power Automate. So if you're interested in going for the Power Platform recognition, you'll see on the nomination form, here's the Dynamics 365 requirements. If you go to next, here are the Power Platform requirements. So you could 100%, if you're interested in going for Power Apps as well, you could go for that as long as you meet the Power Platform specific recognition and kind of go through the interview and quality assessment phase and are able to kind of prove your expertise in that area.
Great. The next question is, does your guidance page cover the kinds of details you are looking for assessing in the architecture solution documents diagrams? Just these get tailored for each client and the level of detail for the target audience, for example, when explaining to a CFO versus CIO?
Let me show you one thing really quickly. The instruction guide definitely provides quite a bit of content around the templates that you could use or consider using, whether it's for reference architectures, customer endorsements, etc. So I would say take a look at that, see if it does kind of align to what you are looking for in the level of detail. If it does not, and if there's additional questions on what should be included when submitting artifacts, you could always reach out to us and we could help clarify. My biggest point of guidance is the more detail you can provide, the better. The reason I say that is, again, that's not only going to help with the kind of artifact quality assessment phase, it's also going to just help prepare you for the actual interview and questions that may arise. So I would be prepared to either show or talk to those regardless.
Somebody asked, how do we prove we are part of a COE team? And I commented, you can work with your COE lead at your organization to make sure that you are added as a member in the implementation portal.
All right. Thank you, Rachel.
The next question, is there a similar program with AI and Copilot focus?
That is a great question. I'm not aware of one. I don't know if you are, Rachel, but from my perspective, I'm only aware of these amazing Dynamics and Power Platform FTRSA programs.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And obviously, like, we have a lot of AI and Copilot features and capabilities, like in our Dynamics 365 and Power Platform suites. So I would encourage you to apply for whichever one is applicable. Your reference architecture could be specific to AI or Copilot. I don't believe that we have certification exams yet for some of these newer products and technologies that have been released. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. This concludes today's live event.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you, everybody. I hope this was helpful, and please get those nominations in. We're looking forward to working with you. Bye, y'all.